Susie. I'm the director of the documentary film Merchant Ivory, which is playing here. And I see some familiar faces from last night, so welcome back. And I'm here with James Ivory, obviously. And you've just seen In Custody. And I have a couple questions for Jim. And first of all, I wanted to ask, how did Ismail come to make this film? Up to this point, he'd really only made a short film called Mahatma and the Mad Boy, and he made a documentary film called The Courtesans of Bombay. But what compelled Ismail to make In Custody and to direct a feature film?
I think because it was in Urdu, and which Ismail loved to speak. I don't know. Some of you will certainly know about a good deal about Indian languages, but I know some of you may not realize that India is the size of Europe, and it's broken up into many different states, or held together by many different states. And as you go from state to state, you often go from language to language. And in northern India, Urdu is particularly spoken and developed, and it has a wonderful literature and poetry and so on. And Ismail, when he was a college student in Bombay going to St. Xavier, he sort of specialized in learning a really good Urdu. Though he was a Muslim, but his family didn't speak Urdu, and he spoke a variation of Hindi. And so he I don't know, just loved that language. And we knew Anita Desai, the author of the novel. She was the next door neighbor of the Jabwalas, and we had come to know her, and it was her novel, and somehow it just all came together that he could then make a film that almost had to be in Urdu. And it's also something it's a film about languages, really, as you saw. And so that's really what brought it about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk a little bit, or hear you talk a little bit about Ismail, the producer, and Ismail, the director. So, I mean, first and foremost, he was the producer and responsible for, a lot of the Merchant Ivory films being, kind of getting off the ground. And so what was it about directing? What compelled him to?
Well, he just got right in there and was ready to do what all directors have to do, is sort of, weigh the script. Is it, do I want this? Do I not want this? And so on. I saw him one day actually take some pages from the script and just tear them up.
So he cut those scenes out.
He just tore them up.
Why was that? Were they short on time, or?
He just didn't feel those were scenes or it was a scene, I guess, probably, that needed to be done. It needed to be included, so he just tore it up.
What did the writer think about that?
Well, she didn't know. I know she knew when the film came
out. But what was it like to visit him on the set, on an Ismail Merchant?
Like any set, you keep out of the way. If you're a visitor on the set, you don't want to bother the director, or you scarcely speak to the director if you're even acknowledged. And it was Ismail doing all his usual things that he does in life. I mean, he just does this and that, and then, but also probably keeping some people out of the way that wanted to talk to him about this or that, or maybe they wanted some money. I don't know what. I mean, he was he was directing the film, at the same time he was carrying on his life as a producer, and a sort of imminent Bombay personality. And it was
yeah, and a few people that I interviewed for the documentary film Merchant Ivory, I remember stories. They're not in the film, but sorry, I have a piece of popcorn stuck in my throat. But I remember somebody saying that somebody came up to Ismail while he was directing a scene, and there was an issue about airline or
Right.
airline tickets,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
it took. Oh, thank you. It took him out, like he kind of was taken out of the directing, kind of like like, and he was dealing with like some producing kind of elements. So I think that
I saw that sort of thing happen also. I always visited him on his sets. He made 3 features in India, and I managed to go to all of them at some point and just be there for a few days. But I didn't want to get in his hair, you know.
Yeah, so you wouldn't involve, like, you
Right.
wouldn't have advice for him?
Well,
Would
but
you
there
ever
was
have
one
it?
time, I don't know, he was tired, and he said, "You do it. I want to take a nap." That's what he did. He went somewhere on the set, I don't know where, and he took a nap, and I directed the scene. It's the scene where Shashi is sort of in bed, um, lying there in bed, and someone comes to see him. Or I remember, but it wasn't much to direct. I mean, Shashi was just lying in bed, but I did do it. And
I mean, that's a crazy story. That's great. Let's just one last question. So, Shashi Kapoor, you as Merchant Ivory worked with him on The Householder, Shakespeare Walla, Bombay Talkie,
right.
Heat and Dust.
Right.
He was your leading man in those films, many of those films. And so, what was it like working with Shashi later?
Well, it was a later Shashi, and he was then, I don't know, probably in his mid 50s, and he put on a lot of weight, and but it was okay for the part because it was a drunken but famous poet, and who ate too much and just lay around a lot, and it was okay. I mean, it was fine. So, but it was a shock. I mean,
But there was a closeness with you all because you had worked together for
right? Yeah,
for so
we
long.
were all very close. I mean, the Kapoor and Kendall. I mean, the whole Kapoor family, and then his wife Jennifer Kendall, who was my leading lady in Bombay Talkie, and we were all very close.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And did the film, did In Custody go to the Cannes Film Festival, or do you remember anything like the reception for the film? I'm just curious if you do.
I don't think it was at Cannes.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But it was at other festivals. I remember. Yeah.
Okay. Open it up to questions. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what movie directors do you admire? Who makes you jealous? What movie did you see and you thought, wow, I wish I had directed that movie? Who are your heroes?
I don't think I've ever felt I wish that I directed a particular movie if I saw it. I don't feel that kind of, because my movies are, I know they come from, I don't know, another place. And
Do you have any heroes?
oh, I had a lot of heroes.
That's what I
Sure.
wondered.
Yeah. I mean, the greatest hero was Ray.
Satyajit Ray.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And he was the greatest influence on us, on me anyway, more than anybody else. And I think if I started making movies again, which is unlikely, but if I did, I think probably they would still resemble the earlier movies that we'd made, and it would still reflect the influence of Ray. I bet.
Good.
Any other questions? Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for being here. It's just astonishing, and it's I just finished a documentary about a poet, and it's such a lesson in documentary filmmaking. Just trying to record that. My question is a little bit about some of the writing elements. I don't.
Like, was this close to Desai's book, and
Which was in English.
in English?
Yeah.
And it seems like Ruth Pryor Jabala was not the
No, she
screen-
wasn't. She wasn't involved in that film. No.
and it wasn't
But
Desai.
the film was written in Urdu
Uh,
or Hindi, Urdu and Hindi. It had to be Hindi because that was part of the story. It was a kind of fight between these two languages, Urdu and Hindustani. But no, she didn't. There was a screenwriter who wrote, I think, probably all the Urdu scenes, and I can't remember her name, but it's on the film.
It's on
but-
the film. One other question was just the poetry itself. Was that from Desai, or
No, it wasn't. It was. I'm not sure where I'm not sure where it comes from, and I wouldn't. My understand. I mean, I don't understand Urdu very well. I mean, I know a bit, but I don't. I mean, I don't know that I would recognize where the poetry came from. Shashi certainly knew when he did it, and when he acted that part. And Ismail, of course, probably or Ismail working with Anita Desai chose the poetry.
Yes.
Well, I absolutely love the symbolism of a crumbling language on the verge of extinction, and then all of the infrastructures crumbling too, the houses are falling down, and in that one scene they're actually destroying the palazzo. Did you just sort of find that by coincidence?
It was
or
happening. Yeah.
it's happening? It's being replaced by technology that
Some monstrous
scrambles
capability.
everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Lovely film.
But Urdu is strong. I mean there is, as we know and have heard and read, there is a whole thing now in India to sort of push the Islamic and the Muslim contribution to Indian culture and life somewhat to the side, and to almost to pretend it didn't exist, and it's much more sort of Hindu. They would hope, they want, the government would want that it's much more of a Hindu country. But there are millions and millions of Urdu-speaking Muslim people in India, so it's a complicated thing right now.
You mentioned that Delhi, the people in Delhi still studying Urdu.
Oh yes, yes, they would. They are. They would be. I mean, it's a place where beautiful Urdu is spoken, is in Delhi. Yeah, and so also there was this thing about, I don't know. I read it somewhere that the people were asking in places like Lucknow and Delhi, where the Urdu is so exquisite. Who is this young man from Bombay who speaks such beautiful Urdu? They were talking about Ismail, because he did, and he just went all out when he spoke Urdu.
In a way, excuse me, but the character Devon, the main character, was sort of, in a way, like Ismail, dealing with all of the different catastrophes.
Exactly, yeah. Which is, I think, one of the reasons that Ismail enjoyed making the film. Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned those early films in India with Shashi Kapoor, and I'm curious about how your relationship as a director and Merchant Ivory's relationship changed with India over time, because there were those early films, then there was kind of a break, and the period British stuff in England. Yeah, I'm wondering, did you what the reason for that break was, if you considered going back, and then or telling sort of diaspora stories of South Asians in the West. And then also I'm curious if you ever considered making this script about J. Krishnamurti.
About what?
About J. Krishnamurti that Ruth Jabla wrote. That's I think it's in her collection of papers, but I haven't read it.
Was that the script that she wanted Emma Thompson to play a role in that? Is that
the role that would have been Emma Thompson's would be Annie Besant, I guess. But
okay.
It was about the kind of sort of spiritual leader, self-help figure, J. Krishnamurti.
I remember hearing about that, but
Now it's out of, I'm not remembering really, but I can't help you on that. I don't remember it, but
I think I might have heard that from Emma Thompson, because I asked Emma Thompson, was there any other Merchant Ivory film that you yeah, so you're bringing me back with that question, because that was a couple of years ago when I interviewed Emma Thompson, and she talked about the possibility of, like, I don't know if you wanted Emma Thompson to be in Le Divorce. Le Divorce, does that ring a bell?
No,
or
no, I didn't.
Okay. Well, for some reason Emma thought she was up for that role, but yeah, but I remember Emma was talking about that project. So I don't, yeah.
I've wanted to like go out and read it, but I guess then if you could speak more generally to that changing relationship with India over time.
Well, I haven't been back to India since 2006. Ismail died in 2005, and I went back in 2006, and I haven't been back since. And I don't expect to go back. And most of the people that I knew in India have long since died. And I don't really know anybody in India anymore. It'd be terrible. I mean, I used to know so many people, hundreds, but they're all gone. And that's why I don't go back to India. And also, it might not suit me now so much. I think it might be, I'd find it so changed that the idea of seeing modern photographs of Bombay or even Hyderabad with skyscrapers and all that is unnerving. So I might not be so happy there. But I mean, I make friends easily, and probably if I did go back, I would have a fine time. But
what was the reason for that kind of break early on, where you made those early movies?
well, I am American, and I did want to make films in my own country,
Right.
and I did. We made a whole bunch of American films, and then at one point we went back. Before we began the English series, we went back and made Heat and Dust, which I certainly wanted to do. As soon as I read the book, I wanted to make it into a film. We made Heat and Dust, but after that, we then went into this. Well, there was one more American film after that, which was The Bostonians, a very much unseen and underrated Merchant Ivory movie, I think. I mean, it has a fantastic performances in it. But anyway, after The Bostonians, we kind of went into our English phase for a while, and that's why people think I'm English, which irritates me. And then we started going here and there and doing stuff all over the place, France and Shanghai and so on.